Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted. Wow, what a strong wind. The wind blew shut the studio door. That's what that sound was. Got the windows open. I'm looking at the calves, looking at the farm equipment right outside the studio window. It's sunny. It's really nice. And I guess I should have closed the studio door sooner. Yeah. We're delighted you're in class today. And we've got a treat. Captain John Regan's with us. Welcome, Captain John Regan.
So where do you want me to take my seat to?
Yeah. I called John and I said, so how you doing? And he said, well, he gave me a couple answers. And I said, well, how's your voice? And so here we are. Captain John Regan's with us. And Rich Sheeman will be back. Rich Sheeman is live and well. And hunting is on his mind right now. So Rich Sheeman is thinking about, maybe this and the next year being the final events of hunting in his life. And then he's probably going to put down his bow and cease hunting. So he wanted to make the most of it while he still has strength in his arms. He has spinal stenosis, and so the strength is deteriorating slowly. So that he wanted to take advantage of it, and we hope he has a productive time hunting with his bow and arrow. So, Captain John Regan, I've got an email from you. Where would you want to start today?
Well, I looked at some of the recent items that I've seen, and we did go ahead and post these on the news tab of the financialstateoftheunion.com. So if you want to go there and follow along. The first one I have up there kind of relates to something we discussed probably 2 or 3 years ago now, where we pretty much saw that, when a woman accepts a DNA contribution, that has an effect on her latter offspring. And even when you're doing things the right way, just, sticking, in a monogamous relationship, your birth order matters too, because any prior pregnancies are going to affect the DNA or the expression of the DNA of, the younger siblings. So this study goes even a bit further, and I called the link, "What Does God Know About Genetics Anyway?" It seems these old rules had a reason, and this was done out of the University of Seattle, and in the third paragraph you can actually go back and read the study, but the subtitle on this is "Women Harvest Every Male's DNA," according to this new study. And what they had found out is that they found male DNA in women's brains. And they originally thought that this would have been from when they were pregnant with a male child, and the DNA worked itself into the mother's system, but they found out that this was true even when a woman had never been pregnant. So they found out that it was because of the DNA contributions that she had been receiving. So very interesting. I don't think we know exactly what the full implications of that is, but we've just seen in normal talk, couples that have been together a long while, how they become more like each other, and this may be part of the process. Vincent?
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about exactly that. And people have said, they are more like each other. I'm talking about as people get in their senior years. They're just like each other. They look like each other. They act like each other. They talk like each other. They speak like each other. They think like each other, and so forth. And I wondered about that. And I wondered about, sometimes you hear, and I think this is wrong. It certainly is correct in magnetism. Opposites attract. But I don't think it's true with people. I don't think you can take two people who are diametrically opposed in everything and have them be attracted to each other and have it work. I think you need to have, in my world, I've advised our children to find a potential life partner, a spouse, a wife or a husband who has the same values, the same kind of education, the same kind of drive, the same aspirations as they do. Otherwise, it probably won't work too well. And of course, they have to be physically appealing too, for most people. And because I really don't believe opposites attract. And I thought about me and Mrs. Finelli and how much we think alike. Even yesterday. Yesterday we had our very first senior citizens Medicare doctor's appointment, where the government forces your physician to ask questions about you, like, do you have a telephone? Can you hear on the telephone? Do you have handrails, in your shower? Can you bathe yourself? Do you need help getting dressed? All kinds of questions. And so we were in separate rooms, 15 minutes apart, giving our answers. And, we compared questions and answers in the truck on the way home, and our answers were the same. Okay? Absolutely the same questions, or same answers. So I think as we get older, we actually do see exactly what you're talking about, Captain John Regan.
Well, next up, I've got an animal study. And while a lot of animal studies, especially, testing things like drugs or nutrition, they may or may not be relatable to humans. This is a study about radiation and probably is more applicable. I really do like what we get out of the animal world. Animals typically don't have the processed food diet that humans do. They don't get the placebo effect from medication. So we get a little bit more truth on what's actually going on. I had an opportunity. There was a series that was available on the internet last month, The Truth About Pet Cancer. And I just watched episode 1, but even that was rather stunning. I didn't realize how high the cancer rates are in dogs and cats. And they were saying how the cancer rate used to be 50% for dogs, and that's 1 out of 2. And now it's 1 out of 1.65. I think that's about a 60% rate now. And part of that is diet. Part of it's, the excess vaccines they get because they don't need these vaccines annually. They're good for a number of years. I believe rabies for like 3, and some of the others are good for like 7. So as long as they're good, they really don't need to have another dose. But probably what is even more damaging for our pets is the glyphosate, because there's a lot of wheat in their food, and we know that commercial non-organic wheat is dried with glyphosate, so you're getting a ton of that poison. And they said that the World Health Organization has determined that glyphosate causes cancer in pets. The World Health Organization has also said that glyphosate is a suspected carcinogen in humans. I think that tells us a lot, too. And I don't necessarily think we need to take all of the wheat out of our diet, but if you consume it, get the organic stuff where you at least don't have the glyphosate in it. Now, back to the study. This came out of Italy. The world's largest animal study on cell tower radiation confirms cancer link. And it's a pretty good size article. It talks about how these cancers are induced even at levels below what's considered safe, and that I wish we could get this into the hands of all of the lawmakers. Not that that makes much difference since they're already bought and paid for, but we're moving not only from this level of attack, the 5G system, which, I'm here in Dallas, which is one of the cities that is getting 5G, installed this year. And that's going to be all over the place to give us all the capacity so that we can get all the information downloaded from self-driving cars.
Yeah. I've got a couple comments when we come back. Captain John Regan's with us. The Financial State of the Union.com. The Financial State of the Union.com. We'll be right back. So to continue with some anecdotal evidence, I had a friend who lived a few miles away as a farmer. And he'd lived here probably all his life in this neck of the woods in Missouri. And he was a senior citizen. And one of our instructors was interested in buying some land he had for sale. So the instructor came over to meet me at the farm, our farm here, and we drove over to my friend's farm that was for sale. And I said to him, "So how do you feel about this cell tower that you've got near you?" And he said, "Geez, I gave my wife $500 to go bribe that guy from the cell tower company to put that cell tower on our farm instead of on our neighbor's farm." So he literally wanted that cell tower on his farm because he figured he would get $900 a month or $500 a month for 20 years to have that cell tower on his farm. And he died. He died. And, the helicopter came over to his farm to pick him up, to take him to the hospital, and he ultimately died. So here's a guy who wanted that cell tower. He was willing to bribe the company that was putting up the cell tower to put it on his farm. Now, why anybody would admit skullduggery like that, I don't understand. And I'm not trying to talk ill of the dead. However, the story is, I guess that's how cell towers appear. People want them on their farms. When we lived in Virginia, we had a friend of the family who had a farm, and they had a cell tower put up on their farm. How close was it to their house? Oh, I'd say a few hundred feet. A few hundred feet. And they're thinking this is good. And class, if you look at these cell towers, they start out with maybe 3 sections of antennas. Then there's 5. Then there's 9. And then there's another row of them. And then there's another row. So now you're looking at, 15, 20 antennas on the same tower. That's what happens. So with each antenna, you have more and more microwave radiation. And what happens is, the tower goes up and people go, I didn't notice that. I guess it was there. I guess I wasn't paying attention. They go up very quickly. They're not there one day. They're there the next day. And then more and more transmission capabilities added to the same tower. Then another tower goes up. and they're disguising towers. In England, they are putting these microwave radiation devices, cell towers, inside church steeples. Praise the Lord, the Church of England has agreed to allow the telephone companies to put microwave killer antennas and transmitters inside the Praise the Lord houses. No kidding. No kidding. They approve this. Why? Money's involved. It's an absolute positive killer. And the reason we moved here to the middle of nowhere is to get away from this nonsense. When we lived in Virginia, we lived in the middle of nowhere. Next thing you know, across the road and down the road, just a little bit, a microwave antenna goes up, cell tower. So I go to the county and say, hey, what's that all about? Oh, well, your neighbor who owned that property decided that he would let the cell company, the cell telephone company, put a tower up. And I said, well, who approved it? Well, Vinny, if you don't like it, you've got a tractor, go pull it down. So the county administrator's telling me, go hook up my tractor and pull down the cell tower. Now, of course, if I did that, I'd be arrested, jailed, destruction of property, and I could say, well, a county administrator told me to do it. What would he say? Oh, Vinny, that was just a joke. You're an idiot for doing that. I was just kidding, right? Isn't that what would happen? So Captain John Regan, they're everywhere. And I was behind an Apple map vehicle planning for self-driving cars yesterday. And I was outraged. I mean, I was really angry looking at this thing, planning for self-driving cars in Marshfield, Missouri, just down the road from us. We'll be right back. So, Captain John Regan, any comments on what I said about people wanting cell towers on the property? Obviously, it's via ignorance. Gosh.
Well, I think a lot of the attitude is it must be safe because the government allows it.
Yeah. And, during the commercial break, I was thinking about, right. I was thinking about what you said during the previous topic about sexually active women carrying the DNA of all of their partners. So, class, if this is not a reason to avoid marrying a slut, I can't think of one. I can't think of another reason to help you that's more important than that, right? Gosh. So, you're, man. So she will be influenced by all of the men that she's had sex with. And, John, do you think this carries forward in the thought processes? So, for example, let's say one of them had an anger management problem. I mean, totally violent. And she's, oh, geez, what a jerk he is. Should never have gotten involved with him. And that other guy, what a mentally deficient guy he is. And then that other loser who hasn't been able to hold a job. And that other guy who's always being arrested for using drugs. And that other guy who's a drug dealer. And, I mean, doesn't that contribute to mental deficiencies and physical deficiencies? And that's what you're saying, isn't it?
Well, some things have a genetic cause, and in those cases, it'd certainly be possible. But some of those issues you talked about are because of toxins or nutritional deficiencies.
Yes.
Yes, but not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. What's next?
Well, before we move on, I just wanted to pull a couple of quotes out of this last article on the cell tower radiation. Cell towers should not be near schools, hospitals, or people's homes. And if they're not near those places, I think you'd have to do away with cell phones altogether. And
Right.
it further goes on, referring to the study, this is particularly urgent because of the current plans to place small 5G cell towers about every 300 meters, which is about 100 yards, in every street across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about
I was...
an average of 50 yards away from you at any time.
Yeah. I was talking to a radio frequency engineer His name is Bert Bertonis. He's one of our USA Prepares instructors. He's a patent holder, and this is all he does. He designs radio frequency systems. He's an expert witness. He's designed systems for some of the largest electronics companies in the world. And I asked him about this. I said, what about all of these antennas? They're popping up everywhere. He said, well, Vin, the answer is really simple. More towers closer together. More towers closer together. That's what's going to happen. He said it 5 years ago. And here we are. More towers closer together. And when you talk about, they were miles apart before. I'm talking about, the cell towers that we're seeing. And when you're talking about every 100 yards, wow, absolutely out of control. Add to that, John Regan, the smart meters. How far apart are the smart meters? Well, if a person has a 1/4 acre lot in a suburb and everyone's got electricity to their home, you're talking about a smart meter every 100 feet, 150 feet. That's kind of close together, don't you think? And then,
well, consider how many people, including us, live in apartments in the city. So I'm here with a cell tower about a block away. There's a smart meter for every apartment, plus another one for the common areas. So for each building, there's going to be like 17 of those meters. And that doesn't count all the Wi-Fi routers that's in everybody's apartment. So we're just bathed with it.
And the microwave ovens, breakfast and dinner probably for sure, probably some having lunches. And then you've got the Wi-Fi routers, the smart meters, the televisions, the computers, any other electronic devices they have. Maybe they've got one of those Alexis-type devices that you can just, talk to and tell them to do things for you, like turn on the lights and, important stuff, like hard to do things like turn on the lights and turn on the television and things like that we probably have forgotten how to do. And then you have smart refrigerators, smart ovens, smart everything, and they're all communicating wirelessly. And the electronics don't know that they're not supposed to go into the next apartment, either on the side or above or below. So everybody is blasting everybody else. Hey, John, have you tried just turning on one of your PCs, maybe a notebook computer, and seeing how many different possible Wi-Fi connections there are near you? Is it like 20?
I would say at least.
Mm-hmm. At least 20. So, wow. The answer is to get out of the city, John. That's the answer, right?
Well, but they're bringing the 5G out to you because those, in order to connect the self-driving cars, they need one of these every 100 yards.
And why are people so ignorant that they're allowing this? Why aren't people up in arms demanding that this absolutely stop? When I look at Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, and I think about that Apple map car that was in front of us, actually it was a truck with cameras on, I think it had at least 8 cameras. A couple in the front, 2 in the middle on each side, and a couple in the back. Then I believe it had satellite communications to transmit real time. Here's what I'm seeing with these cameras. When I think of Tim Cook and how perverted he is in lots of ways, and what he's doing to the world with the technology, it's an outrage. I really don't like the idea of self-driving cars. I really don't. There's too many things that can go wrong. What about the blue screens that we get with Microsoft's Windows? What do they call that? The blue screen of death? Computer just hangs. I can't tell you how many times my PCs hang. It's annoying. Not necessarily the Linux PCs, but the Microshaft PCs. I have lots of problems with that. Hey, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about, John. I am getting a deluge of advertisements everywhere I go. So if I look for a hydraulic pump for one of our tractors. Then for days and days, actually weeks, I get ads for hydraulic pumps. Exactly the one I need. How do they know? The pop-ups, the movies, the videos, I can't get to where I want to go. It used to be, you'd see an ad in the corner of a web page. Now it's pop-ups covering up the web page, and I can't read what I want to read because there's so many ads. And the bandwidth is being eaten up by these movies that I don't want to see. I don't care if a person can get the dog to walk backwards. What do I care about that for? I'm actually trying to get something accomplished, something that I consider important, not social trivia. How do we stop this? Do you know? I have not been able to figure it out. I've gotten rid of Mozilla, and I've replaced it with Opera, and it worked great. I blocked all the ads for like 20 seconds. Now they're all back.
That's because they've got different kinds of cookies out there. This was talked about a little bit in the Facebook fiasco. You don't even have to have a Facebook account for Facebook to track you, because when you start going to a site and you do a search, it's going to know what you searched on. And now when you go to these other sites, now you're getting that advertising. And I expect that situation's probably going to get worse. Even if you manage to get our government to pass laws, that still wouldn't protect you from activity from other countries in the world. So that there is no privacy, and I don't think there's anything that you can really do that would be of much benefit. And even if you do manage to do some things that would enhance your privacy a little bit, like say you want to have your emails be private so you encrypt them even though there's nothing of value in them, just the fact of you encrypting them would now mean that you're a higher target because of your action. So, no real good answer there. The technology is just leading to more and more surveillance and ultimately control, which we're already seeing that in China with their social scores. If you don't do things right, if you think wrong, you can't buy a house or you can't travel. And we're quickly getting to that point in the United States just through a different route. There's more and more automated background checks that companies can use. So if they don't like, your belief system, they forget about having a job.
Yeah. I've got a comment about that when we come back, what it's like to apply for a job today. Oh, man. So for those of us who are baby boomers and, haven't had to apply for a job for a while, it's horrible. I'll tell you a little bit about it when we come back. Captain John Regan's with us. Kind of a sobering broadcast. Not much good news here if you like privacy. Captain John Regan's with us, and joining us from the state of Washington, Ted is with us. Welcome, Ted.
Good morning, Vincent. Good morning, John. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call.
Sure.
I wanted to share with you 3 browser add-ons that are very, very powerful. They are my favorite, and they really help you take control back to get rid of any pop-up windows, any banner ads that you might have. It replaces them with beautiful white space on the web page.
Okay.
The first one is Ghostery, just like the ghost, but you add an ERY, so it's Ghostery. And even if you get the spelling wrong, if you search for it, it'll correct itself. And it's a small add-on that you can add to any browser. My favorite is Firefox.
Okay, that's what I use.
Perfect. And you can set it to auto-update. Oh, you use Firefox or Ghostery?
Well, I use Firefox, and I just switched to Opera because I couldn't stand my computer hanging with all the pop-ups, the banner ads, the videos, and all that. Opera's working a little bit better, but I'm used to Firefox for, years.
Yes. The ultimate browser for, I take that back. Not ultimate, but one of the very best browsers for privacy is called Brave. It's an orange lion head icon, the Brave browser. It's already pre-configured with privacy in mind, and it can be tweaked even more. And so I always switch between Firefox and Brave, the browsers. But the first add-on was Ghostery. The second one is, awesome. And you can go to YouTube tutorial and learn how to adjust it and tweak it. It's incredible. It's so awesome. It actually tallies up all the super cookies and the spies in the corner of your window, and you could turn that feature down to only let you know every 3 seconds or 15 seconds. It's really, really nice. You'll love it. The next add-on that I would highly recommend is called AdBlock Plus, and it's the word plus. AdBlock Plus. Mm-hmm. And again, just search for online tutorials. It'll teach you how to use it. In less than 10 minutes, you're done. And the final one is called uBlock Origin. So it's the letter U, the word block, uBlock Origin. I use all three of those in conjunction together, and my web pages, not only do they load up faster, no more banner ads of any kind, and what's really nice, if there's the latest super banner or some type of intrusive pop-up that still somehow tries to defeat them, you could always right-click on that banner and teach the add-on to avoid and destroy that banner, and it stays away permanently. You can refresh the page, and sure enough, your add-ons learned how to manipulate and get rid of that, and it's just beautiful, clear, white space. No more auto-playing videos. They're really, really nice. You guys are really going to appreciate those three add-ons plus the Brave browser.
Okay, I've looked them all up as you were describing them. I found all three. So, class, Ghostery, Ghostery. Then you can search on Brave space browser. Then you can search on Ad Blocker Plus, AdBlock Plus, and uBlock Origin, the letter U, BLOCKORIGIN. And that's great. Ted, I've got a question for you.
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, since we're on this kind of a theme, maybe John wants to know as well, and the rest of our class, I despise Facebook, and I only use it to say, well, here's today's. Captain John Regan and his URL, and Vincent discuss sexually active women carrying DNA from all their past partners in their brains, 5G, the big threat of against life on Earth. That's all I have. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about. Now, how can, and can you hold through, how can we destroy the data that Facebook has gathered on us? Not just delete it, destroy it. Is there a way?
I'll hold. We can talk about this after the break.
Great. Thanks so much. Captain John Regan's with us, Ted in Washington, and I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of the USA Prepares. Nathan is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Captain John Regan's with us. And Ted has joined us from Washington State, and he's going to help us destroy our Facebook data. And the only reason I've still got Facebook is I'm waiting to figure out a way of not only just saying to Facebook, please delete me, thank you very much, and actually trusting them. I don't trust them as far as I can throw a piano, as my dad would say. But I want to do something that will, through a post, that will absolutely obliterate, turn to gibberish, nonsense, the data that Facebook and their cohorts have collected on me. Ted, what do we do?
Thank you so much for inviting me to continue.
Yeah.
It is my personal belief, just like the analogy that says we can vote with our dollars, we can vote with our behavior. Me too, like yourself, I despise Facebook. I've never had an account. I pride myself on that. I'm allergic to Facebook. And what I like to do to leave an imprint on people's brains whenever they talk about their Facebook accounts, I tell them, oh, don't you mean CIA book? So they look at me a little bit weird, a little bit funny. I remember when people used to lick stamps. I remember when they would attach a photograph to their email. Now people are just downright lazy, feeding off of convenience to have one place where they can post all of their pictures and everyone else can watch. We're getting lazier and lazier and heavier, I'm sorry to say. So for those of us that have venues, websites, and things of pertinent value, like yourself and other shows, I know there are alternatives, privacy alternatives to Facebook. I don't know what the names of those are off the top of my head, but I've come across two in the past. I never wrote them down because they didn't pertain to me, but I made a mental note that there truly is availability. Just like the Brave browser, there's alternatives to Facebook that doesn't thrive and keep your information, and there is no hidden back door. And it's a worthwhile search to find alternatives to that.
Okay. I did find some information alleging that with a script, if you just post a script, well, maybe several scripts on your Facebook page, it's like, look at me. And what it will do is it will literally go out and destroy the data. And that's what I want to do. I literally, and I don't care if Mark Zuckerberg is listening or not, I hope he is, I literally want to destroy the data that they have collected on me without my explicit permission. They've gone behind
That is such a worthwhile endeavor to do. And I know for sure I've seen certain interviews with him where not necessarily he was borderline paranoid, but he will take electrical tape and block out any USB input ports, any cameras. Anytime he has a reporter interviewing him, he doesn't want any type of bug to be leaked in onto his property. So that shows us how cunning he really is. So why should we give him and them and the beast and the machine details about our lives?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I once called a guy up, and he wrote a program called Flagger, Flagger. And I'm looking for Flagger right now, and I don't see it. I'm looking through a search engine. And what this thing does is you add this little Flagger program to your email software. And it will append words to your emails. And I'm actually going to use these words on the radio. I've refrained from doing it in the past. But these would be words like bomb, shooting, words like that. So that if a person had an email that said, I'm thinking of, and somehow it used the word bomb in the email, that would raise a flag and have someone look at that email. So the Flagger program would append many of these words at random to different emails. Now, if enough of us used that software, it would mess up the system because there would be so many emails that would have to be manually looked at. It would bog down the system. And maybe it might be an interesting thing to do, but I can't find it. I'll do some more searching. And go ahead. I
would like to ask you, what search engine do you use?
Well, if I want the results, I'd probably have to use Google, but there are others. Which do you recommend?
Thank you for asking. I highly recommend StartPage.
Sure, I use StartPage as well.
StartPage, and then their twin sister is IXQuick. Okay. I know there's a brand new one in the works. I actually heard about it last week. It's called the Presearch, and it's made by a few inventors, and it's actually yet to be released. I think it's presearch.org or presearch.is. What it does, unlike Google, what it does is it'll study the internet and keep every web page on their own servers. But what Presearch does, it'll go out and actually do an authentic internet search. So, for example, people that had their result come up on the first page worth of hits through Google, sometimes their results can be on the 8th page of the result. Mm-hmm. But Presearch is so powerful. It's up and coming, and there's all kinds of news about it. I found that one out from Freedom Phoenix.
Let me ask both of you this. We'll start with John Regan. John Regan, I got a call from Rich Shealy in Montana early this morning, and he said he's very concerned about something that's happening, and that's the AI following or finding people and following them and then destroying their credibility, destroying their lives, destroying their marriages, destroying their happy homes by releasing information that's not true about them. And we don't know who they are because it's AI. So what I'm saying is turning husbands against wives falsely and causing strife in families. And he's concerned that that's going to happen more and more and more and cause problems for people who are in the alternative, truthful media. John Regan, your thoughts? And then Ted.
Well, I have no doubt that will happen. We've already talked about some of the older technology where it's pretty darn easy to make an audio, and now they've got it to where you can take a video, like of a president's speech, and change the words that's coming out of their mouth. So, it's going to be harder and harder telling what is real and what isn't, and you want to use that to, ruin somebody. Absolutely, that's a way, and it's going to be practically impossible to defend yourself, and it gets to the point where the way you go to defend yourself is you record everything you do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but then that's likely to be grabbed and used against you as well.
Ted, your thoughts?
Thank you. There used to be a series on TV called Person of Interest with Jim Caviezel.
Yes.
Too bad they pulled the plug on that one, but that just is an eerie rendition of what is already happening. There is no agent watching the footage through one camera. There is artificial intelligence, AI, like a supercomputer, putting all of these data bytes together through fusion software. Facial recognition has blown up exponentially to no longer just facial recognition. It's total head and body recognition. They can scan your head from the top along with your ears, your walking habits. They don't have to see your face anymore. They can just beam down right through your hair. There's another movie that was recently out. It's a new release with Tom Hanks. It's called The Circle, where these little self-adhesive, magnetic, self-charging, always connected little globes, these little spheres, the size of a marble, they can be thrown. They're basically cameras. You can throw them at a window. They can follow anybody. It's such a powerful and yet eerie movie called The Circle with Tom Hanks. I recommend for the entire class to go watch that and really help put things in perspective. Again, the only things that we have is our behavior, the way we conduct ourselves to break this addiction of CIA book, Facebook. Because if we don't give the beast any material and data to have, who knows? Hopefully it'll crumble on its own. But we need to go back to not necessarily analog, but extreme self-control.
So I went to do a little more research on Facebook, and part of what I found was one way, before you just don't tell Facebook you're going to quit or to close your account, request that you close your account. What was recommended was go get a new email address, a bogus email address, and then change your email in Facebook to that new email address. And then change your name in Facebook to a different name. Leave it for a while, and then close your Facebook account. Because then they'll have the wrong email address and the wrong name. Pretty cool. So what I did was what I did was I looked up what's the most common name in the United States.
John Smith?
Well, that's one of them. Robert is one. John is one. Smith is one. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So, class, John Smith. That's a great name, right? John Smith. John Smith. Let me say it a different way. John Smith.
I love how
Now,
you say that. Let me say it a different way.
Hey, Ted, thanks so much for being with us. I'm going to give you a call off the air, and let's get you on as an instructor. Thanks so much. Stateoftheunion.com. And so, class, I think we'll just use John Smith. John Smith as our new name. And I'll let you know, I'm going to do a search on what's the most popular email address. And maybe we can all use similar email addresses. Wouldn't that be fun? Captain John Regan?
You know, they keep track of every change that you make, so it's in your history.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make it a little more difficult, that's all. I'm outraged, John. I really am that they've been doing this. They're a bunch of perverts. They sneak around. This reminds me of those guys who look over the fence, peer over that stockade fence at the girls in the bikinis, so they can get a glimpse of the girls in the bikinis swimming in the privacy of their own pool. It would not be tolerated if there were a person in the neighborhood who was caught doing that. But you've got Mark Zuckerberg doing it. You've got the CIA, the NSA, the FBI. So many government organizations that we're paying for are a bunch of perverts just spying on us. It's an outrage. I object to it. And this nonsense, if you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to fear. Okay, I'm not doing anything wrong, and I think they're a bunch of perverts, and I don't want them paying attention to me. I want them to leave me alone. I don't want them flying their drones over my farm. And if they do, I'm going to do my best to use them as target practice, because I'm going to say right now, if there's a drone flying over my farm, I feel threatened. I feel threatened for my life, for the lives of my family. I don't know if they're containing bombs or what. I'm not interested. I want to knock them out of the sky. That's how I feel about it. I'm annoyed.
Wait till you hear what's going on with cash.
Oh, is that today?
I don't have a link for this. I had, we have an account at a credit union here, and one thing that started probably over 6 months ago now is that you have to provide an ID to make a deposit. You can't just go like you used to, whether it's cash or check. You have to have an ID to make a deposit into your own account.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that if I walk in with a deposit slip for my physical paper checking account, and I say, I would like to deposit this check I've received from somebody else into my account, I now have to prove who I am?
Yes. And even if it's just cash. But wait, it gets better.
What could the reason be? I can just see the blue plague, pulling me over, and if I had, 3 $100 bills in my wallet, if I carried a wallet, which I don't, but if I did, and I opened up my wallet to pull out my license, if I had a wallet, and that guy in blue with the guns and the taser and the handcuffs and all that, and the baton and the two-way radio and the shotgun and the AR-15 and all the flashbang grenades, that guy, the radar, that guy. If he pulled me over and said, all right, license and registration, and I pulled out my wallet and he saw 3 $100 bills in it, I can just see it now. Where'd you get those? Where'd you get all that money, boy? Where'd you get that? Is that drug money? Really? $300? I can hardly buy tractor parts for $300.
Let me tell you the rest of the story. I went into the branch, and I started making this a habit, because when I go into the branch, I don't have to fill out a deposit slip. I just go up to the counter, and the teller takes care of it. Well, this last time, I noticed something different. And you know how it used to be in a bank, teller had a cash drawer, and, if you needed to change a bill to something smaller, you just take the bill, and they change it out.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that anymore. You now have to deposit the cash in order to get change. You have to get a withdrawal to get smaller bills. And they no longer have a cash drawer. They've got a machine beside them, and they'll put the money in. It sounds kind of like the ATM when it chugs. And I'll tell you the rest of it when we get back.
And what is this for your own protection? I mean, they've got you on video when you pull into the parking lot, when you get out of your vehicle, when you walk to the front door. From the front door, every motion you make has been recorded, and they want to make sure that, and I'm sure they've got facial recognition. Captain John Regan's with us, and truck driver Jay is on hold. We'll be with you in just a minute, Jay. John Regan, you were talking about cash.
Yeah, and you took a detour you didn't need to, because remember, you already had to show your ID at the beginning of the transaction. So they know you, and they also know who all is associated with that account. So if you do get cash out, it's only gone to you or an unknown transfer to, like your wife.
Yeah.
But let's go through what this machine is doing. First off, it's counting the money, and that's something the teller said, one of the benefits of it is, counts the money for them. Well, I'm also imagine it's also checking to see whether or not it's counterfeit. So they don't have to do that, marking on the bill to make sure that it's a real bill. Whether or not it's doing it now, it's certainly feasible that it can read the serial numbers on each of the bills.
Or the magnetic stripe.
So, on the hundreds. It's got a print on each one. So now it knows money you've deposited. And keep in mind, they don't have the drawer anymore, so to give you cash back, it has to come out of the machine, in which case it knows what the serial numbers are again. Now, when you go shopping, and the big stores are moving more and more to the self-service kiosks, what do you do when you pay with cash? You have to insert it into their machine. What does that do? It tells you what the denomination is, probably checks whether or not it's real or fake, and may or may not right now be reading the serial number. So, nice direct transaction that, says who you are.
The anonymity of cash is now going away. That's what I'm hearing. Gosh.
And now think about it this way. Even if you go someplace that is, not a big store, mom and pop, the bigger the bill, the less chance it's going to be given out in change. So when they make that deposit to the bank and then they run that through their machine, now it's going to know that, okay, you went to Billy Bob's gun shop and paid with that bill. And therefore, they build more and more information about you just based on the cash habits. And it may end up being, more than 1 degree of separation. It may have been, especially for a smaller bill, it may have been given out in change, and it may be 2 or 3 transactions down the road before it gets tracked again. So now it's building this web of associates, and it's just, nightmarish. So, that's probably stage 1. When they get to the point where they can blockchain everything, they'll just blockchain the cash so that every time you want to transfer it, even to your wife, you need to do that blockchain transaction to show where it went to.
As you were saying this, I was thinking about a couple scenarios that I just don't like. It has nothing to do with John Regan. It has to do with what these guys are probably envisioning and developing and implementing. And one of them is, I plan on buying something today, and it's going to be about $500. It's for the farm. It's a piece of farm equipment, all bona fide. And it's going to be a tax deduction. It's a used piece of gear. And the guy that I'm buying it from does not know me, has no idea who I am. So he's going to want cash. So I'm going to give him cash, and he's going to load up my truck with this farm equipment. So let's say I hand him 5 $100 bills. And the bank would know Vinny's got those hundreds because I got them from the bank. So they've got the serial numbers, and let's say I give them to him. And then he immediately buys something from another guy today, within hours. And he uses 1 or 2 of those $100 bills. And that guy goes to the sex shop. And now, because the transaction happened so quickly with the velocity of money being so quick, I could be tied with going to that sex shop because that $100 bill was used for the sex shop. Is that right, John? Is that what we're talking about?
They wouldn't know that it was you for that. There's degrees of separation, but when you walk
right,
into,
but it's that $100 bill.
Right, but when you walk into the big retailer and you are using cash in their kiosk, they are doing facial recognition there. So they know
at
that
Walmart
it's you.
right now.
They know it's you, and they know the serial number of the bill you're using. When it's the situation you described, they don't know it's you, but they know it can't be too far away from you. But they might not be able to.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
They might not be able to trace the middleman.
Right, but and then how do I defend myself? I say, no, what? It's not me. What are you kidding? No, that's not me. Well, it's your $100 bill. You got it yesterday. It was used today at that place. So it's got to be you, Finelli. Prove it wasn't you. How do I do
and they
that?
can make a video
well,
showing you were there with everything that you said. That you never said,
right?
And you weren't ever there, but that's beside the point.
This is an absolute outrage, And then I guess the other piece of this is the anonymity of cash, which is why I like cash. And how dare they say to me, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to hide. How dare they say that?
They don't have to do away with the cash to get rid of the anonymity.
All right, look. Truck Driver Jay, if you can just hold on for a couple more minutes. Truck Driver Jay's on hold. I've got some sad news. And I'm angry about this. And I'm sad about it. One of our instructors passed away recently. His name is Len Pence. John Regan, you know Len Pence. And Len Pence was about 80 years old, died of bone cancer. Painful death. Just happened last week. Len Pence, I met with him, a couple months ago, and he told me that the parasites in the Department of Revenue for the state of Missouri were attacking him. Stage 4 bone cancer, and they put a lien on his farm, claiming unpaid sales taxes. He said, Vinny, I have a business that teaches gardening, and I don't teach classes in the wintertime. They alleged the last 3 months, last quarter of 2017, he had unpaid sales taxes. He said he had no sales, didn't do any business. They made it up. They made up the transactions. They claimed he owed $3,000. They put a lien on his farm. He's now died. His wife is frail, and these perverts and parasites have attacked him. And now it's up to the family to defend themselves against this unprovoked, dishonest fraud against Len Pence's estate. Now, these parasites and perverts are the same parasites and perverts that attacked my family and threatened to put a lien on my property. And I came out swinging and gave out the names and numbers of these parasites, including the chief legal counsel, and I got an apology in writing. And then they did it again. Another attack. And I came out swinging again, and I got an apology from the director of the agency, claiming that I owed unpaid sales tax. Now, most people would say, well, it's $3,000. Maybe I can get it down. Maybe they'll cut it in half. Maybe they'll let me just pay him $1,500, even though I don't owe it. This makes me angry because now the honest people are in a position where they have to defend that they didn't do it. It's backwards. It used to be that the Blue Plague and their minions, or the government and its minions of the Blue Plague, had to prove that you did do it. Now you have to prove you didn't do it. It's backwards and it's wrong. Yes, it's really tough. It's really tough. And what I did, I mean, you know the story. I came out swinging, but not everybody's willing to come out swinging. So the guys that do come out swinging were looked at as, the bad guys. I'm not a bad guy. The government is bad. It's out of control. It's out of control with the census, the agricultural census, 16 pages worth. It's out of control with just the regular census. How many Mexicans live in your house? Well, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm not going to tell you how many Germans or Portuguese or Chinese or American Indians live here either. It's out of control. And I'm angry about it. So I know they're going to start making stuff up about Vin Finelli. That's coming next. And I'm going to fight it as long as I can, and I'm going to expose these guys. Name, rank, serial number, telephone number, house, front door, children. I'm going to use the same tactics as they use. I'm going to make them feel uncomfortable. And fortunately, these government minions aren't all that bright. They're not bright. If they were, they'd have a real job. John, I can't believe it. Every broadcast, somehow, you hit my button. Gosh, I'm not going to recover for this till tomorrow. And truck driver Jay, been on hold for 16 minutes. You come on as soon as we come back from this break. Thanks for being so patient. I'm going to take a walk around the farmhouse and see if I can calm down, because I'm angry. We'll be right back. Truck driver Jay is joining us. Welcome.
Good morning, Vincent. You're talking about the Facebook. There is another social media. It's called MeWe, M-E-W-E, and it doesn't have all those restrictions. It doesn't spy on you. Doesn't collect all your information, and there's not a very big following on MeWe, but it is growing. I agree with you on Facebook. It's crazy.
Jay, let me ask you this. You're in a truck, you drive, you get a chance to chat with people, you use a CB radio, is that right, still?
Yes.
Okay. What are the truck drivers saying? Are they concerned about any of this invasion of privacy, the tracking of every movement? Because many of the trucks for the larger companies have GPS, and they somebody can look at a screen and figure out where every truck is, right?
Yes, especially if you're in one of the mega carriers. Prime, right out of Springfield, Missouri, is one of them, and they know exactly, right down to within like 10 feet of where that truck is at all times.
Yeah, so obviously that driver's got a bladder problem because he's been in the restroom for, looks like 90 seconds so far. Are we down to that level too?
No, there is a little bit of leeway. There's a little bit of forgiveness, on some of those things. Now, if you are supposed to take Interstate 40, towards Knoxville, Tennessee, and you're up on, you're taking 55 north, you're way off route, they're going to call you up and say, hey, what's going on? My company, I'm with a very, very small company. We only have 5-6 trucks, so they don't worry about that stuff.
So then, John Regan, do you have any questions or comments about what truck driver Jay has said, or questions for him?
I think I remember seeing new regulations where they're trying to get that tracking down to the smaller trucks for all the logs.
Yeah, you're talking about the electronic logging devices, and they are fairly mandatory for everybody except for the hog and livestock haulers, and you're hauling live animals. It has to go from point A to point B as soon as possible. I have a regulation where after 8 hours I have to stop for 30 minutes. I have to take a 30-minute break. The livestock haulers don't have to do that.
Truck Driver Jay and John Regan, back in the 1990s, I had a friend who owned a trucking company and tractor trailers, about 100 of them. He started out very, very small, started out with one used tractor and one used trailer, and then built and built and built. And I built a computer system that enabled him to expand his business from 13 units to over 113 units. And he was able to manage it with the assistance of a network I built for him. And one day they called me and asked me if I would install some software because they were being pulled over so frequently for these manual logs that the drivers would fill out that it was getting to be so problematic that they thought if they would automate and have a computer-driven log system, it would help protect the trucking company, their privately held family business, from the invasion from the police. And that was back in the 90s. So they're being pressured. Manual logs, no, you can't have that. They're not accurate. You got to have these electronic ones. And then we've gone from that to satellite tracking. Unbelievable. Unbelievable invasion of privacy. Truck Driver Jay, thank you so much. Captain John Regan, thank you for all your hard work. I'm looking forward to being on the air with you again and again. Thank you so much.